March to Freedom, Day 5. Welcome back to Dudes Ascend, where we talk about how to elevate ourselves as men. Today we are on Day 5 of our March to Freedom from Porn 30-day challenge. And we are talking today about your brain on porn. What porn actually does to your brain. My name is Hamilton, and today on Day 5, I'm coming in super early again. I've got one more day left of this Infinite Possibilities course that I've been in, so I gotta get this video knocked out. And I'm gonna be honest, today the urges are starting to creep in for me. I woke up feeling a little bit of that voice in my head like, hey, remember those videos you used to watch? Yeah, those would be great to check out again. Like not feeling like wanting to make a video and just wanting to procrastinate and escape into that dark playground, as my therapist used to call it, again. And I've got to remind myself of why I'm doing this. So I want to talk about what porn actually does to your brain and how this vicious cycle of addiction is perpetuated and really destroys your health, honestly, your mental health particularly. We are covering today two major aspects of the effects that porn has on your brain, what your brain looks like on porn. Now, if you've not seen this, and if you are curious about the detailed effects that porn has on the brain, a must watch documentary called Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson. I'm leaving the link down below. This is about an hour-long documentary by a neuroscientist named Gary Wilson, who goes into great detail about what this habit actually does to the brain. And it is very sobering and very motivating, because you will learn in great detail about what I'm going to cover today and what the effects of this habit actually are. In this documentary, you'll see Gary Wilson going deep into the neuroscience with hard science facts of showing the brain scans of how porn literally shrinks your brain. In particular, your prefrontal cortex is very damaged by repeated use of internet pornography. Now, they call this a super drug in that documentary because of the massive floods of dopamine that are go straight to the reward center of your brain, and the effect that has on your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that sits right about in the forehead center, and that part of your brain is responsible for decision making, understanding consequences, using logic, like thinking about what the effects of our actions are, and weighing like risk reward kind of behavior, things like that. It's basically your decision making center of your brain, and this part of your brain literally gets turned off in the addiction cycle and shrinks and really damaged. And this is exactly why you can talk to addicts and who have had horrible things happen in their life because of addiction. Maybe people who, were drug addicts or whatever and had gone to jail repeatedly and then still go back to the thing. Maybe their marriage is falling apart, their entire life is falling apart, and they know it's because of this habit, and yet they still go back to it. And you could ask them, why would you do that? Why would you go back to this thing when you see that your whole life is falling apart because of it? And they say, I don't know. I just couldn't help it. This is exactly why that phenomenon occurs, and they're telling the truth when they say that, because their prefrontal cortex was turned off when that addiction switch gets flipped, and the addiction starts telling your brain, we got to have this thing. it turns off your decision-making center to where you can't see and you can't think about and you can't connect to the consequences of your actions. You can't connect to that logic part of your brain that's like, yeah, I want this thing, but I know I really shouldn't do it because I ended up in jail last time, or all of those consequences that we normally take into play when we're about to choose some kind of behavior. It destroys that part of your brain, and that's why you find yourself going back over and over again to something that is no longer good for you. This is scary stuff, man. To know that something is literally shrinking your brain. This documentary really destroys the lie and illusion that porn is a harmless drug, that it's a victimless crime, right? Something you're doing in the privacy of your own home, and it's just normal. All guys do it. Everyone does it. It's healthy for you, actually, sexually. It's not, man. It can't be healthy to shrink your brain. And they show brain scans of people who have porn addiction problems compared to someone with like a heroin addiction, and the porn addict's brain looks worse. This is scary, man. And nobody is talking about it, but the science is there. I promise you, look it up. Look up effects of porn on the brain, and you'll find a lot of studies showing this exact same thing. The second thing that porn does to your brain and to your body chemistry is this repeated flood of this super drug of dopamine that is sending just such a massive amount of dopamine surge to your reward center of your brain over and over and over again. What that does is it depletes the reward center of your brain, and it wears out your adrenal glands over time by giving you this massive rush and high, to where you come back to life afterwards and you find yourself bored, irritable, not enjoying the regular things in life that you used to enjoy, activities, being around people. You find yourself, if you find yourself feeling like, man, this is like so freaking boring. Oh my gosh, this person is getting on my nerves so much, and they're like a friend of yours or your partner, right? Your wife. This is because that reward setting in your brain has become so conditioned to like this unnatural, super high rush of dopamine that anything less than that feels boring, feels like you don't want to deal with it. It's not enjoyable whatsoever. It has nothing to offer you, and that's your brain telling you, hey, go back to that thing that gave us that huge rush. Just go back to that. Just go back to that. Just go back to that. And it becomes a vicious cycle, because porn is usually an activity done when you're by yourself. So this habit becomes very isolating. You find yourself wanting to stay away from people a lot so that you can go back to your drug over and over again. And you find yourself spiraling down into deeper and deeper pits of depression and despair, because each time you go back to that and then come back to life, you're less and less equipped to enjoy anything. Really, it steals the joy out of your life, because there literally is like nothing really in regular life that compares to that massive rush of dopamine that you get in the reward center. But it's like it's a empty high, because you feel so depleted and tired after. The tiredness comes from those adrenal glands being wrecked. Sometimes people, you can act out with porn for hours and hours and hours, and if you do, that is wearing out your adrenal glands, because our adrenals are not meant to sustain this high level of stimulation for hours and hours and hours on end. And when we repeat that cycle, we just become so worn out. So these are some big reasons why quitting porn is so important. If you want your brain to be growing and expanding, and rather than shrinking, and literally your decision making ability being taken from you, and you want to have energy in your life, you want to be able to enjoy simple things like being out in nature, connecting with friends and family, reading a good book, anything, we have to quit this habit, because it takes those things from you and it lessens you. And check out Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson for very detailed information about all this stuff and even more, and what addiction actually does to the brain. Like I said, it's a very sobering documentary, and it's very motivating, because when you start learning what this is actually doing to you, it's hard to pretend like it's not so bad. It's hard to pretend like, this is an innocent thing. It's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. It's a really big deal, and we're seeing the effects everywhere. There's countless relationships out there and marriages that would probably be very successful and happy otherwise, that porn is destroying right now. And there's countless people who are single and feeling depressed and having real mental health struggles, and struggling to even connect with anyone because of this problem. And we're not even getting into any of this overarching like societal effects, the abuse of women, the degradation and objectification of women that is so prevalent in the industry, the miseducation of children who are learning about sex through porn in a very twisted, version of sex that's being presented to them and just like jammed down their throats, and it's not realistic. It's not how sex really is. And there's so many problems with all of that as well, but we're talking about just the very basic fundamental level of what it literally does to your physiology and your brain. And that's a really important aspect too. And it's just a very simple question to answer of like, can this really be good for you? And to me, I think the answer is very simple when you start really learning the science behind it. So that's my advice for today, guys. Check out Gary Wilson's Your Brain on Porn. Again, I have the link down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel to help get this information out there. There are a few guys out there who are talking about the effects of porn, and how to quit porn and stuff out on YouTube. But there's not enough voices talking about this, and I want to use my experience and my struggles with this over the years, the ways that it has really been a huge obstacle for me and my own mental health. And I want to use that experience to potentially help others. So by watching these videos all the way through, hitting the subscribe button, it helps the YouTube algorithm to put this in front of more people. And the more people that get to see it, the more people I hopefully get to help. This is a huge, talk about pandemic. This is a pandemic right now worldwide, and there's not enough people talking about it because it's an embarrassing subject, and there's a lot of shame and guilt wrapped around the topic. But we've got to start having honest conversations about this, guys, because the effects of it are huge. And even just on the most basic level of our actual physical health and our mental health, we got to start looking at the facts. And it's very sobering when you do. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys learn a lot from Gary Wilson's video. It is a must watch if you're interested in this topic. You gotta watch it. And I send you all the encouragement and stuff if you're still hanging in on day 5, if you're starting to have those urges, use some of the tools that I talked about yesterday, and you will get through it, right? Remember, these urges are temporary and they tucker themselves out after just a little while. So stay strong, my dudes. We're still going, and I will see you guys next time on day 6. Peace.